Hi guys, welcome back. I decided to put together this video because after publishing the practice test for the average CSA exam, I got a bunch of questions about this particular question. We have before we go any further, I just wanna point out that I am under NDA with Red Hat, so all of the questions that I publish on my site, they are not questions that I have seen on the exam. These are questions based on the exam objectives that Red Hat has published on the site, and any similarity is a coincidence. And I to the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen these questions on the exam at all. So having that out of the way, on one of the practice tests, we have a question that states, and I don't have it here, so I'm going to try and write it down right now. So the question basically asks you to just bring this here, to create a partition mounted on the directory web, and then configure HTTPD to use that directory as the default site. Right, so I wanted to record a video about this question because it's it's some of the guys have been trying to do the exam, they haven't been able to find their way around. So and it is a tricky question because as you will see as we start trying to resolve it, it touches on many areas, right? It touches on the fact that you will have to create a partition and obviously mount it, so you would need to deal with your storage, number one. Number two, you have to install the HTTPD package, so you have to use yum and do an installation. Number three, obviously you have to manipulate the HTTPD services to make sure that it starts on boot and start the HTTP service, and then configure it to use web as the default directory. Then you do have to configure your firewall, and then you also have to configure SC Linux as well. So let's just go ahead and by the way, I think this this will be I think this is a very hard question. Let's just put it like that. So as I was saying, first, the first thing I'm going to do is just going to make sure that I don't miss anything. So I'm going to put some points here that I need to configure. Number one is create the partition. Number two, mount the partition on boot. 3, install HTTPD. 4, configure the directory. 5, start and enable service. 6, configure the firewall. And 7, configure SC Linux. Alright, so let's start with the first one. Sorry. So to create a partition, let's first of all take a look at the partition table. To do that, we do a cat. We cat the partitions file to see what we have over there. As you can see, we do have the VDB device, and as you can see, there's not all the partitions underneath it. So let's just use that one. On the question, is ask you to create a 1 gig partition, so just do that. So fdisk and then dev VDB. So if you can see, you have the option M. It tells you to press M for help, but really when you press M, what you get is it's kind of a menu, and then it gives you all the options that you have. So let's create a partition. To create a partition, you do N, right, to add a new partition, right? N, new partition. We can set it as a primary partition. It doesn't have to, it could be an extended partition, but since this is the first partition, it's just create a primary. Partition number 1, the first sector we leave it as is, and then the last sector we're gonna do +1 G. That will make a partition of size of 1 gig. Let's press P to verify that we have a Linux partition created. So as you can see, we have VDB1 and it's a partition type Linux, right? Now let's just exit out of there. Let's just write the changes, right? The next thing is that we need to tell the operating system about the changes we did to the partition table. To do that, we do part prob. We can actually focus part prob on the partition itself. We can on the disk itself. We can do the FVDB, right, and that will make it faster. Now, if we look at the partitions file on the proc directory, we should have already knowledge of the VDB1, right? So we have the partition already created. The next thing we need to do is just give it a file system. So mkfs, let's do an xfs. Sorry, xfs. Let me look at the help first, because what I really like to do when I'm creating my file system is to create a label. Why? Because that label is going to make it more descriptive first, and also it's going to help me mount it using the FS tab easier. So let me just look at the help quick. If you can see, we do have the L option here, which would allow me to create a label for this partition. So let's do that. So mkfs dot xfs and then -L, and we're gonna call it web, right? That way, we know this is the partition we're gonna use for that web directory, and then VDB1. All right, so that's gonna give that partition a file system. If we do blkid, you will see that now we should have that partition right here. So it has type XFS, it has a label web, and that's gonna make it simpler certainly to mount it. So now let's go ahead and mount the partition. First we need to create a directory to mount it. So mkdir and then web. That's it. And now let's modify the etc fs tab file. Right, so since we created a label, instead of writing we could write the device name, because it's not that complicated, but I'm always concerned about the system rebooting and changing the drive letter, sorry, the name of the device, and that's gonna we won't be able to boot. So having a label is going to ensure that that label is never going to change, right? So just do it like that. So we put label web, that should do it, and then we're going to mount it on the web directory. The type is xfs, and then let's use defaults. Sorry, defaults, and then 0 and 0. That's it. We save it, and now to verify that it's actually working correctly, then we say mount -A, which is going to mount everything that we have on the fstab file, and then we can verify that the file is mounted using the df-h command, and here it is, right? So we got a 1 gig partition mounted on the web directory. So step number 1 done. Perfect. And step number 2 done. Now let's install HTTPD, right? That's very simple. So jump install HTTPD. This will take a minute. Alright, so that should take care of step number 3, right? Done. The next step would be to configure the directory. So what we're gonna get into the configuration and make sure that we use web as the directory. So let's go ahead and do that. Vim etc httpd and then conf. On the conf directory we do have the default configuration file, so let's go ahead and do those changes here. Listening port 80, that's fine. Include those modules, perfect, it's all looking good. Directory, so these are some permissions that we need to keep for the directory, so we leave those over there. And then we had document root. Let's change that. So what I'm going to do, in case I want to revert, I'm just going to comment this out and then type it here. Root web. Right. And then directory. Again, we need this to make sure we have some permissions to that directory. That's it. So update it here as well. And that should be it. Alright, so let's save this configuration, exit out of there. Having that configuration done, we can enable the service, so it starts next time we reboot. HTTP. Alright, and then we can start it. Right, now next step, we have that done already. Configure directory, done. Start service, done. Now let's configure the firewall. To configure the firewall, we're going to use the firewall cmd command, then we're going to do a permanent and then we're going to add service HTTP. That should do it. And we need to reload the firewall for the change to take effect. Let's verify that everything is there. So list all. And we have HTTP as well, right? Firewall done. Now the next step, and I think this is a step that most of the guys missed, is the fact that we are running SC Linux. So let's do get enforce. And you will see that we are running SC Linux on enforcing mode. Now, if we look at the old directory and we do an ls-lz, right? C is to look at the SC Linux context for the file. We do var www. You will see that in there we do have a particular label for these files, right? So we need to set this context for the web directory. If we look at the web directory, lcd web, you will see that it is unlabeled, right? So let's just fix that. Again, let's just go ahead and go towards the SE manage man page. And since we're doing the F context, then we can actually look at this man page here, which is SE manage minus F context, right? And on this file, we do have a very good example at the end, and you will notice that that example matches, right? If you look at this, added file context to everything on the web directory, right? In this case, we have SE manage F context, add type. This is the content type, and then everything under the web directory. And it is actually, we don't have to change anything because we're using the same directory, web. and then after that, let me just copy that, because that's exactly the command that I'm gonna need. After that, we need to restore, make sure that we write the changes back, right? So we use restore con, and then we use it recursively, and we use it, we use verbose to see what's changing on the same directory. So let's go ahead and do it. Paste this right here. So as you manage f context, and then that should do it. This command takes a little bit, but not so much. Restore con, and then web. That's it. So we should do else minus cd web, and now we do have the right context. So let's just create a quick HTML file in there, and let's make sure everything's working. So echo test site web. Now we're gonna test it. So I believe the IP address is http 192.168.122.147, and we can see this site. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope this clarifies some that question for you guys. I know it was a tough question. As you can see, there's a lot of areas that you need to touch, but I would say that you should be ready for configurations like this. Remember, when you're putting together a service, you need to make sure that you don't compromise the security of the server. So that's you need to touch the firewall, you need to touch SE Linux, to make sure that you keep your security in good shape. And also you need to make sure that the service will be functional after you do all that configuration. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around.